Okay, someone in the chat earlier mentioned Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage, so this is one of my
Yep.
picks.
Yep,
Another
yep.
video game, but Troy may be able to speak to the comic book it was based on.
Sure.
Actually.
Mm-hmm.
This is Spider-Man Venom Maximum Carnage. This had been a big comic book story in the comics.
Yes, it
And
was.
like a year later, they made a video game out of it by the same people, the same company that brought out the Spider-Man X-Men Arcade's Revenge. This one was a bit more successful. Still hard, but they did it as a beat 'em up this time. Look at this. And no one understood why they never tried this before and why they didn't really try it again. You can actually retell comic book panels in a 16-bit video game really well. Like you can have the comic book show up, and then you can have
Yep.
the speech bubbles pop in and out,
Yep.
and do things, and you could do that in a video game really well as a way to tell a story. And
Yep.
then you can go into the actual gameplay playing the level, and they did it
that
here.
made for great cutscenes, just the comic book
Yeah.
panel.
Yeah, and really clever. The music was done by the band. I know it's spelled Green Jelly, but I think it's their name is actually Green Jello, which was kind of like a
Well,
90s
originally
alternative band.
they originally came out as Green Jello,
And
but
they had to change it.
yeah,
They
Jello is a trademark, so they had to change it to Green Jelly.
didn't they do the Three Little Pigs music video that was clay animated?
Yes.
And Rambo shows up and shoots up the big bad wolf. I
Yep.
remember that. Uh, but here we
Hey,
go.
little pig, open the door. Not by the hair of my chin.
Yeah, they were an interesting band. They did the music for this. Two of the songs were included on one of their albums. One was called Rock and Roll Pumpkin, and the other was called Carnage Rules. And they actually, if you pre-ordered this from a certain store, you got a free audio tape of both songs on them. You know the you know what I'm talking about, right? Tapes
Yeah.
before.
Mm-hmm.
Because they wouldn't give you a CD, obviously, probably because that's
Right.
too much money back then. But you could play as Venom or Spider-Man. But true to the comic book, you can only play as Venom in later levels because they were trying to stay true to the story.
Right.
Look at that J. Jonah Jameson. What is he saying? Hi, honey, I'm back.
Yeah.
And it's
So
just,
the story was, and I think most people probably know this by now. So Venom, of course, was the symbiote that Peter picked up on Beyonder's world during the original Secret War.
Yes.
And he didn't know it was and we talked about this last week because we talked about Venom. He didn't know that it was a symbiote. He thought it was some kind of nanotechnology. Then he finds out it's alive and trying to bond with him, and he rejects it. And so it, like a jilted lover, is pissed, and he bonds with Eddie Brock, who also hated Peter because he lost a job because of him. And so they bond and they become Venom, and he's a villain for a while. And then he kind of becomes like an anti-hero. He still hates Spider-Man, but he's not like all evil, but he's incredibly brutal, kind of on the level of like the Punisher.
Mm-hmm.
But then another symbiote ends up coming to Earth, this red one that bonds with, I forget
I thought he was birthed from the original Venom symbiote and took over this guy in the end.
Yeah, there was
serial
it had,
killer.
They were related somehow. I don't know if it was offspring or siblings or whatever. But he bonds with a complete psycho serial killer, and Peter and Eddie have to team up because they're like, this guy needs to be stopped. He's bad.
I remember that comic book when he's like, hey, Brock, you're always about saving the innocents. Catch. And he throws a baby at him. And actually, Venom catches the baby and he says, no. This baby's innocent. We were innocent once, too. Of course, he blames Spider-Man for that. But, it's like not being, but he would never hurt a baby. Venom would never hurt a baby. And what I thought's interesting, this was a follow-up story that came out later on when Carnage breaks out, and he breaks out other supervillains. And this becomes a task that is beyond Spider-Man's ability to handle on his own. This game starts out with a comic book panel, and Spider-Man's almost having an existential crisis. He's like, I feel like I'm destined to keep fighting the same villains over and over again. Like nothing's getting solved, nothing's getting fixed. And of course, then this happens. And eventually he has to team up with other superheroes like Cloak and Dagger, Black Cat. He teams up with Venom himself. He has to get Venom involved. Morbius, the living vampire, joins in, and I believe Deathlock. And then even Captain America shows up to help out at
Yep.
the end. And this was a comic book series, right? Where it all happened, and it was this.
Absolutely. It was
Yeah,
in the Spider-Man series. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
This might have been before the next thing we're talking about. Yeah.
Real quick, I want to say hi to Raquel. Welcome, welcome, and of course, Logical Spark. Good to see you, my friends.
But yeah, I'm going too far. But great use of comic panels.
Yep.
Beat 'em up gameplay is good enough. A little tough though. You really got to learn how to exploit your, because you can find extra lives, and you get bonus attacks from the heroes that are helping you out. So if you need help from Cloak and Dagger, you can gather a token and use it at the right opportunity, and then they come in and sweep and kill all the bad guys.
Oh, nice.
I
Yeah.
remember though, there's a cutscene where Spider-Man gets thrown off the building, and he says, "Oh no, Carnage and Streak are on a tear. If ambitious punks don't finish me off first." And you see these regular street criminals say, and one of them says, "You've got to be kidding me!" Like, "Hey, look, Spider-Man's down for the count. We can take him out finally." You know, and it's
Yeah.
but good little video game came in a red cartridge for the Super Nintendo too, and a great rocking
Red for
soundtrack by,
Carnage. That makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they usually were gray cartridges, but this one was red. And great soundtrack by Green Jello and Green Jelly, I should
Cool.
say.
Cool.
But yeah, but worth checking out. Also released on the Sega Genesis, and the Genesis port isn't too bad either. I think the Super Nintendo is a little better, though. I think it does the guitar riffs better on Super Nintendo.